Your anger lasts 90 seconds. Everything after that is a choice. In 1996, a Harvard brain scientist named Jill Bolte Taylor suffered a massive stroke. And being a brain scientist, she did something extraordinary. She observed it. She timed her own emotional responses as her brain was failing. What she discovered, the physiological anger response, the flood of cortisol and adrenaline, the racing heart, the narrowed vision, completes its chemical cycle in approximately 90 seconds. After 90 seconds, the chemistry is gone. If you are still angry, you are choosing to re-trigger the loop. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years before the neuroscience existed to prove it. Seneca wrote an entire book about it, De Ira, on anger, and it remains the most precise manual on anger ever written. Here is his framework, and here is exactly what to do with those 90 seconds. First, what the Stoics actually believed about anger, because almost everyone gets this wrong. The Stoics did not believe you should suppress anger. They did not believe you should feel nothing. The popular image of the Stoic, cold, emotionless, gritting his teeth through provocation, is a caricature they would not have recognized. Seneca's position was more precise. Anger is not the first feeling. It is what happens after the first feeling, when your judgment endorses it. He divided the anger response into 3 movements. The first movement, the involuntary shock. Someone insults you, cuts you off in traffic, dismisses your work. The body responds before thought. Heat in the chest, tension in the jaw. Seneca called this the first movement, and he was explicit. This is not anger. This is biology. Even the perfect sage feels it. You cannot prevent it, and you are not supposed to. The second movement, the judgment. This is where the mind steps in and makes a claim. I have been wronged. This is unacceptable. He should be punished. The second movement is a proposition, a statement your mind is offering you for approval. The third movement, the endorsement. You accept the proposition, and the moment you accept it, anger, actual anger, begins. The chemistry refires. The loop closes. Now you are not having a response. You are building a case. Here is what makes this framework remarkable. The modern neuroscience maps onto it almost exactly. The first movement is the amygdala response, the threat detection system firing in 12 milliseconds, faster than conscious thought. Bolte Taylor's 90 seconds is the chemical lifespan of that first movement. The second movement is the appraisal, the prefrontal cortex evaluating the amygdala's alarm and constructing an interpretation. The third movement, the endorsement, is what psychologists now call rumination, the repetitive mental rehearsal of the grievance that re-triggers the chemical cascade each time you replay it. Seneca had no brain scanner. He had only careful attention to his own mind, repeated over decades. And he isolated the exact intervention point that affective neuroscience would confirm 20 centuries later: the gap between the second and third movement. You cannot stop the first movement. You cannot fully prevent the second. But the third, the endorsement, is yours. So, what do you actually do in those 90 seconds? The Stoics left a protocol, 4 steps. Step 1. Name the movement. When the heat rises, say to yourself, silently, precisely, "This is the first movement. It is chemistry. It will complete in 90 seconds if I do not feed it." Naming the response creates the observer position, what Epictetus called prosoche, self-attention. You cannot observe a state and be fully captured by it at the same time. Step 2. Delay the endorsement. Seneca's most famous advice on anger is also his simplest. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Do not argue with the judgment. Do not suppress it. Just postpone the verdict. Tell yourself, "I will decide whether this was an outrage in 1 hour." The judgment loses urgency when it loses immediacy, and most angers examined an hour later do not survive the examination. Step 3. Examine the proposition. When the chemistry has settled, look at the claim your mind offered you. "He did that to disrespect me. Is that certain? Is it even likely?" Marcus Aurelius, who managed difficult people for 19 years as emperor, used a specific reframe. They act this way because they do not know better. Ignorance, not malice. It is almost always the more accurate explanation, and it dissolves the case for outrage. Step 4. The morning inoculation. This is the step that prevents the hijack before it starts. Marcus Aurelius opened his meditations with it. When you wake in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." This is not pessimism. It is negative visualization applied to other people. When the difficult person arrives, and they will, the first movement is smaller because the prediction system was already calibrated. You cannot be ambushed by what you have already rehearsed. One distinction matters more than everything else in this video. What the Stoics practiced was not suppression. Suppression is holding the anger in while the case continues building. The research is unambiguous. Suppression increases physiological stress and makes the next eruption worse. The Stoic intervention happens earlier, before the anger fully forms, not holding it in, declining to build it. The difference is the difference between gripping a live wire and never picking it up. Seneca watched Rome destroy itself with anger. He served an emperor, Nero, whose rage would eventually order Seneca's own death. He wrote on anger not as theory, but as survival manual in a world where one man's endorsed fury could end thousands of lives. His conclusion, after a lifetime of watching anger operate at every scale: no plague has cost the human race more. You have 90 seconds. The chemistry will complete on its own. The case will not build itself. What happens after the 90 seconds was always yours. The Stoics didn't study anger because they never felt it. They studied it because they felt it and refused to be governed by it. After all, we're all human.